Good morning, afternoon or evening, ladies and gentlemen, all in crypto here, and welcome back, guys, on this triumphant Tuesday for what is going to be nothing short of another jam-packed daily market update. And to kick the video off, we're going to be diving over to an interview that Ray Dalio gave. Now, if you're not familiar with who Ray Dalio is, he is probably one of the greatest participants in markets ever. There's many of them out there. In fact, he's the guy that's responsible for the chicken nugget. And he did that through essentially creating futures that would secure the price of grain to feed the chickens, and then actually the chickens to sell to McDonald's to make the chicken nugget. So that's a very kind of interesting example, but he's been a vital part of markets. You know, he's an amazing marketeer. Somebody that you should definitely listen to. You should read his book, certainly the one on debt. And actually, his Principles is a great book as well. Certainly the first sort of 2/4 of that book or 2/3 of that book are a great read. But he's actually talking about crypto now. And he's someone that's very anti-dead assets. And by dead assets, he's talking about the bond market. And we can speculate on why the bond market is dead. He talks a little bit about it and actually the catalyst for Bitcoin and the proposition for Bitcoin and gold in this interview that we're going to be playing to start the video off. And then what we're going to be doing is we're going to be diving over to Eric Balanchunas, the man to follow when it comes to US ETF inflows. In fact, inflows more broadly, but certainly when it relates to the cryptocurrency space, he's been a great guy to follow. On Friday, we saw a real resurgence in regards to inflows. And actually, this ties in perfectly with what we're going to look at the start of the video in relation to Ray Dalio, because the masses are not here yet for Bitcoin, guys. It might seem like that. We're very much in an echo chamber here in the cryptocurrency space. Certainly when we look at our altcoins, people don't realize how tiny they are in regards to where they're actually going. And that's the prospect that we want to keep you guys all on the scent of. And then we've got some really interesting things to do in regards to price action. I'm going to be showing you that we're setting up today in 2025, at the start of 2025, in the exact same way that we did in 2024. Then we'll talk a little bit about the FDIC and what's now been revealed there in regards to the Federal Reserve. FTX may be returning as an exchange, and then we'll proceed and continue the video. So without further ado, what I want to do now, guys, is dive over to this interview of Ray Dalio.
My view on cryptos remain pretty much the same, and I'll articulate it. First of all, I think that, and I own crypto, I own some Bitcoin. The question is the amount and how attractive it is relative to gold, okay? I think that there's kind of the old man's gold and then the younger man's crypto. But the important thing, first of all, is to represent whether one or the other, and really ideally some of both, should be in the portfolio. Don't be so fanatical that you're just having one and not the other. And do worry about the value of money and what is your alternative money that can't be printed. Okay, so now when I look at gold and it's evolved over, crypto, and it's evolved over time, there have been a few things. First of all, there's not the privacy element of crypto. Everybody can understand exactly what it is. You can tax it easily. So governments can easily tax it. It doesn't have the same element of that privacy. There's a saying that gold is the only asset you can own that's not somebody else's liability, meaning you have to depend on somebody else. You can own it and so on. Gold has always been a reserve currency in all times. It's the third largest reserve currency. In other words, the largest is the dollar, second is the euro, third is gold, and fourth is the yen. So it's always the currency that's being gone to. Right now we're seeing a lot of central banks acquire gold. That's not the same as crypto, because crypto is different that way, because still, who controls it? Is it controlled behind the scenes, or do you have possession of it? And so for those reasons, I prefer gold to crypto. But I think the important thing is the recognition of the issue of do you trust the governments? And I think that to trust the governments that they won't print the money to make the debt service easier is not the best move. So I'm, sort of anti-debt assets like bonds and so on, and I prefer the other. But I would say that should just be a portion of the portfolio. I don't want to get carried away with that. I would say that if you look at it as a diversifier, I think particularly Gold is something that if you look at how it behaves in relation to inflation and also interest rates, it behaves in a way that's more understandable than Bitcoin. Bitcoin is more of a speculative element with this limited supply aspect to it. So, but if you look at that, it's an effective diversifier of the portfolio. If you take most other assets, stocks, bonds, real estate, and so on, they will generally have good times and they will do well. The gold and that is a diversifier. So you actually reduce your risk by having some in the portfolio, somewhere between 10 and 15% of the portfolio.
There we have it, guys. An updated take from possibly, one of the greatest sort of market participants and understanders of portfolios. That's what Bridgewater have done. And if you look at the percentage of asset managers out there that have that exposure, it's next to none. If you look at the percentages of companies that hold Bitcoin, it's next to none. If you look at the government and their exposure, that's set to increase infinitely. 2025 is going to be a truly sensational year. And actually, as such a fan of Ray Dalio, we really wanted to share that with you guys. Let's talk on the topic of institutions relate to the ETFs. I would have predicted a rough patch for the BTC ETFs given the drop below 100K. Overdue for a breather. But no, they roared back with nearly $1 billion Friday, which lifted the 1 week to a positive net. Good sign. The scoring was spread around too. Dream team style, also a good sign. To back up my reference, here's a Dream Team box score for the 1992 Olympics. Okay, we don't need to get into that, but you can see that ETFs are now starting to see inflows. Actually, we have looked from a seasonality point of view or a monthly point of view what the first quarter of this year will bring, the first 3 months, and they're typically all positive. In fact, February is typically the third best performing month when it comes to Bitcoin gains. Actually, March, I think, is the fourth, and April is the fifth, and then we've got the whole sell in May come back in St. Leger's Day, but May tends to be overall a net positive month. So we've got those months ahead of us, and actually, just like what we have here on the left is Bitcoin's current price action, we saw a very similar thing back in 2024, going into 2024, with those months that we just looked at. This is Bitcoin's current price action. This is Bitcoin in 2024. Obviously, we've just entered 2025. I believe you're going to set up similarly. We warned people about getting out the market based on some of the fear that was generated on that inverse head and shoulders. It was a potential play, but we said this is a small time pattern that really flies in the face of the broader trend, and you don't want to be short a bull market. I mean, just saying that, you can kind of understand what it is we're getting at there. So I do think Bitcoin's got a great quarter ahead of it. I think altcoins are really going to outperform. We've made lots of content yesterday on a couple of altcoins we think are going to do well. HBAR's one to really watch at the moment, not just against the dollar, but against multiple cryptos. It suggests it's going to gain real ground for me. You guys know that, we're very zealous on Hedera. But I think we've ultimately got quite a good Q1 ahead of us, guys. Certainly this year, actually, I think more broadly is going to be a good year. Whether we see that sell in May come back in St. Leger's Day, like we sort of saw here, is still to be seen. But we will, of course, keep you up to date. We've got lots of higher price predictions that ultimately still have to be met. We have Eleanor Terrett, who's obviously a journalist at Fox Business. The Federal Reserve Board has announced the resignation of Michael Barr as the Vice Chair of Supervision. Barr will remain on the Board of Governors. A Warren acolyte, Barr was widely considered to be a big part of the reasons why banks have been unable to engage with and custody crypto. So this is what we're seeing is a regulatory shift towards a space. The US has been a major barrier broadly for people participating in it. Those barriers have now been broken down. I don't think people realize fundamentally what's going to take place this year. It's going to be spectacular, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you're all on board for that ride. You're literally going to have people's lives getting changed by the ROI. A lot of these altcoins are actually going to return. We've been positioning for this. We're ready for it. On interesting news, FTX, we all know FTX, of course, the disaster that was, the enabled disaster that was. FTX EU acquired by Backpack Exchange, an exchange founded by previous FTX Alameda employees. FTX EU has been acquired by Backpack Exchange following regulatory and legal approval. Backpack EU will take responsibility for distributing the previously court-approved FTX bankruptcy claims. It plans to offer crypto derivatives, including perpetual futures, through the European Union. So FTX, I actually think, is set to make a return. Is there a trade there with the FTT token? I would actually stay away from it. I'm at this stage now where, you know, I believe I've got this really healthy portfolio. There's no need for me to start taking on any kind of unexpected risk. So a hell of a lot going on. Let me know your thoughts on what Ray Dalio had to say. I think he makes a point with gold. Bitcoin is not your freedom money. The maxis pushing that agenda are, they either honestly believe their own lies or they've just not really looked into it truly. It's like them saying that the only use for a distributed ledger is Bitcoin and everything else is an SHIT coin. Simply not the case. But a lot going on. We've got a great year ahead of us. Are we going to set up in a similar manner? We already are setting up in a similar manner to what we were going into 2024. I think we're going to see that sort of price action that we saw then with the kind of months that we had ahead of us. We're going to have a great quarter. Lots of interesting things going on sort of internally with the US. That's it from me, guys. I'm going to love and leave you on that note. Thanks for watching. I'll see you all in the next one.